Hi, how's it going? My name is Jack Murray. I'm going to be giving my midterm wine presentation on ice wine, or pronounced in Germany as Eiswein. So here's just a quick little overview of why I chose this wine, the grape varietal, scientific information, and the correct pronunciation of ice wine. So I chose this wine actually because my brother speaks fluent German, and when I was going through the wine list, I asked him what his opinion was, and he said ice wine is a big deal in German culture, and it's extremely sought after as a dessert wine. And when he said dessert wine, I really wanted to try a wine that was sweet, and this wine is very sweet. So excuse my pronunciation for a few of these things. So underneath where it says why did I choose this wine, it says Eiswein ist köstlich, and what that means is ice wine is delicious, more or less. I thought that was just kind of a fun thing to add in there. So for the grape varietal varieties that come, that the different grapes are used to make ice wine. So there's Cabernet Franc, Merlot, Gutzweiner, Riesling, Gruner Veltliner, Chenin Blanc, and Vidal Blanc. In German, it's pronounced iced Wein, so it's kind of fun to say. Many different grapes can be used to make this wine. Something that's really special about this wine is that the way it's made is actually very hard, and it's hard to produce, which makes it extremely expensive. And I'll go over a little more into how it's made in the next couple slides. So here's just kind of a visual representation of the different kind of grape varieties that are used to produce ice wine. So as you can see it from the slide, the Cabernet Franc wines produce these crazy colors, and they're like super amber, almost orange. And as you move more towards the right, you start to get different variations of colors. I wanted to make a note here that the Riesling to me in the middle almost looks like a rosé, and it's kind of interesting. All of these wines are grown in different areas, but they need a suitable climate to make proper ice wine. It's a very delicate process in which it's made and requires the perfect conditions. So here's just a little quick geographical history of ice wine. The first ice wine is believed to have been made in Germany in the late 1700s, when freezing weather struck before the grape crop could be harvested. The winemaker persisted and kept trying to harvest, and eventually pressed the frozen grapes and fermented the juice, and what came to be was a very sweet wine. It was actually made by mistake at first, because the winemaker just needed to make a wine, and it turned out to be a delicacy. In the early 1800s in Austria, Germany and Austria continue to produce ice wine, and they do this because their moderate European winters were almost ideal for creating the ice wine, but sometimes it didn't get cold enough there to freeze the grapes. Because of this, in the 1900s, and a tradition that was carried over by the immigrants, Canada and British Columbia specifically became one of the biggest producers of ice wine. It began in the 1970s, and the climate was almost ideal for reliable production of ice wine. There were warm summers to ripen the grapes, and the winters were cold but not too cold. And currently today, in present time, Ontario, Canada is the leading producer of ice wine, and has actually earned global acclaim for its ice wines that are produced today. So here are some fun facts about ice wine. Ice wine is best enjoyed in a chilled tulip-shaped ice wine glass, which kind of looks something like this. This was the closest representation I had laying around my apartment. It's a little bit chilled. It's gotten a little bit more warm since I started the presentation, but that's all right. So the way in which it's harvested is to make it ice wine. So a ripe, healthy grape is frozen on the vine and hand-picked, and those ice crystals are actually removed during the pressing of the grape. So what remains after the grape is pressed is a small amount of juice and a lot of concentrated sugar. So it's a huge gamble whether or not the grower can easily make this wine, because sometimes the grapes will rot. Hail can take them out, storm, if it's not cold enough, that it just won't work right. So really the climate and the temperatures need to be ideal to produce ice wine. And it's one of the reasons why the ice wine is so scarce and so expensive. So another fun fact is that the state of Michigan is a perfect climate for ice wine, and I don't know why people haven't jumped to making ice wine in the state of Michigan, but there actually are a few ice wine makers in Michigan that produce a very high quality ice wine. And like I said, the reason it's so expensive is because of the way it's produced. And just talking about the expensiveness of it really quick, I picked up the Jackson Triggs Reserve Vidal ice wine, and this was 187 milliliter bottle. I actually have the bottle right here. So you see, it's not a big bottle at all. It's actually really small. This bottle was around $25 at Binny's. If I were to buy the whole big bottle, it was gonna cost me around $100, and that's a lot of money for some wine. Yeah, a lot of money. So, like I said, the secret to ice wine is processing these frozen grapes at around 20 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's kind of the sweet spot. And these frozen grapes are picked frozen on the vine and come right into the winery. So another fun fact I just wanted to point out, I thought it was really interesting, is that the U.S. Treasury Department actually specifies what is real ice wine. So it says wine made from grapes frozen after harvest may not be labeled with the term ice wine or any variation thereof. And if the wine is labeled to suggest it was made from frozen grapes, the label must be qualified to show that the grapes were frozen post-harvest. So even the U.S. government is on ice wine, and they want to make sure that when people buy ice wine in America, they're getting the real thing. So I thought that was really interesting. Next, I'm going to move on to some of the most highly rated ice wines. So here are three of the most highly rated ice wines that I found just kind of researching through the internet. The first one is a 2016 Riverview Cellars Cabernet Franc ice wine. This was set on the banks of the Niagara wine region, and the Riverview Cellars family run, and they have a rich history of classic ice wines. So this wine will run you about $104 for the bottle, and it has great notes of strawberry, delicious butterscotch flavors, and has a complimented little hint of lemon in there. So the second wine I'd like to talk about is a 2004 Inniskin Legacy Edition Carl Kaiser Cabernet Franc ice wine. So this is actually from Canada, and it's one of the most famous wineries in Canada. Inniskin is, and this Cabernet Franc is actually known for tasting a lot like bubblegum, and that's why people really like it. So the price of this one is $377. And then the third one I like to show is a Riesling from Germany called Dr. Leusen's Riesling ice wine, and this is a very complex ice wine with surprisingly gentle notes of honey and apple. It's very fresh. It costs around $994, so pretty expensive. I wanted to kind of give like an overview of an affordable kind of highly rated ice wine to an expensive one. These are all highly rated, but next I'm going to go over the most expensive ice wines I found during my research. Now this one took me by surprise. So the most expensive ice wine that I found was a Royal de Maria 2006 Chardonnay ice wine, which sold for $500,000. Yes, $500,000. It says the price is $499,443. I don't know why they couldn't just round it up to $500,000, but I'm gonna call it $500,000. That's crazy. The reason it's so expensive, I honestly don't know why it's so expensive, but according to my research that I found, even on its release, some of Di Maria's wines actually sell for 2 or 3 times more than the last time they were bought. So each time the bottle's bought, their price goes up, which is crazy. They began making ice wine in 1998, and since then they have won 89 medals, which is crazy. Second one is the Royal Di Maria 2006 Vidal ice wine, which is a mere $30,000. Some of us can afford that, or we can just go buy a car. I would rather have a car than a bottle of ice wine. But to each their own. This one, again, has the Royal Di Maria name. It's basically the Rolls Royce of ice wine. That is why it's so expensive. It's probably really good, but it's the Rolls Royce of ice wine. Yeah, so this is actually a hybrid grape. It's grown mainly in Canada and the northeastern United States, and that is the kind of grape that is used for Royal Di Maria, the $30,000 bottle of ice wine. So the next ice wine for most expensive I'd like to talk about is a measly $1,700 compared to the $500,000 bottle one. But this one's a 2012 Egon Mueller Schulfle Riesling ice wine. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce that last name. But obviously this one is from Germany. And it's from Egon Mueller's estate, and they've been making ice wine for over 200 years. They're very famous makers of ice wine, and a very sought-after ice wine as well. So now I'm going to talk about some of the most popular ice wines at an affordable price. So the first one I'd like to talk about is the one we're actually going to be trying today, the Jackson Triggs Vidal ice wine. Here's what it looks like. It came in this nice little box. I put a little purple cork thing on there to keep it nice and fresh. Yeah, so like I said, I haven't tried this one yet. I'm excited to try it in the next couple slides. First with you on the video, so it's going to be fun. So I can't really tell you much about this wine yet because I want it to be a surprise. The next popular ice wine at an affordable price is the Wagner Riesling ice wine. What I learned about this one is that there's aromas of honey, exotic fruits, citrus, and it's really balanced for a sweeter palate, and it's a great dessert wine like many of these ice wines are. Actually, all of these ice wines are classified as dessert wines. They're very sweet. So the last one I'd like to be talking about is the 2018 Inniskin Vidal. This is a hybrid and has a thick skin on the grape, which is perfect for harvesting, especially ice wine because the grapes are frozen. It gives them a little more integrity to them. People say that this has tropical aromas and flavors of mango, lychee. A lot of these wines are going to have very fruity flavors, as it'll be a common trend. So without further ado, let's go into tasting the Jackson Triggs. So now I'm going to be tasting the Jackson Triggs ice wine, the Vidal ice wine. So right off the bat, just by appearance, I can see that it's clear. I mean, obviously it's not like clear, but there's no haze or anything. It looks clean, clear, but it does have a gold hue to it. Definitely a gold hue to it. It almost looks like apple juice to me, to be honest. I'd say it's a medium intensity. Pale to medium, I'd say. Let's give it a smell. It's very clean. Right off the bat, I get hints of white grape and elderflower. I'm a bartender, and this reminds me of a liqueur called Saint Germain. It smells just like it. It's actually very pleasant. So I'm getting a lot of fruits, flowers, some peach, a little bit of apricot, maybe. Okay, let's give it a taste. Wow, that is very sweet. Definitely sweet. I would say that it's pretty low in acidity. Sometimes ice wine can be high in acidity. This one's definitely lower in acidity. No tannins. It's got a light body. I get a lot. This tastes like white grape, 100% to me. Very strong. I'd say this wine's, in terms of quality, I'd say it's outstanding. I really enjoy this. It's definitely dessert wine though. It's not for like a big, thick, hearty meal. It would not go well with. It would go well with a nice light dessert, something like that. Yeah, it's very good. So I said floral blossom. There wasn't really elderflower, so I just put elderflower and with blossom on my wine evaluation sheet. Next, we're going to be going into what works out of the 6 tasting groups. Okay, this is going to be a fun one. So this is our taste test. I'm going to start with sweet. So for sweet, I actually got a little bit of chocolate Haagen-Dazs ice cream. Doing my research, I saw that ice cream is something that goes very well with ice cream, or ice wine. So let's try it out. Oh yeah. I can definitely tell why people treat this as a dessert wine. That was delicious. The chocolate hit my tongue, and then the ice wine kind of just washed it all down, and it was so smooth going down. It paired perfectly. Next, let's move on to salty. So for salty, I'm going to be eating just a little bit of a tortilla chip. Think that works? Very salty. It definitely gets rid of the salt immediately. I don't know if the tortilla chip was the best combination for this, because I'm getting a lot of the tortilla taste sticks in my mouth. But if we're just basing it just off salt, I would say that it definitely works. It does a great job of kind of getting rid of that salty, lingering salt kind of vibe, and it reminds you of what the ice wine is, which is delicious. Next, we're going to be moving on to spicy. So for spicy, I have one of these hot buffalo pretzel bite things. Let's try this out. It's kind of doing the same thing as the salty a little bit. It really just cancels out the spice. So I'd say it wouldn't be my go-to for like a spicy, like if I'm at like a spicy, if I'm having like a spicy like Asian dish or something, I'm gonna want a nice Riesling or something that really I know is gonna take that spice off after each bite. This one does that too, but this wine almost leaves you feeling a little full. But I would say that for the most part, it works. In a weird way, it works. So for that reason, I'm gonna give it a check mark. The next taste I'm going to try is acidic. For that, I have a pickle. Thought that was perfect for it. So, take a little bite. Ooh. Very acidic. Woo. I do not enjoy that at all. The pickle taste, the acidity does not go away, and it does not match well with the ice wine. It just does not. That's gonna be my first X. That's a no-go for me. Ew. So for umami, this is gonna be a fun one. I actually got a beef dumpling. I thought that would be perfect. Here it is. Here's the dumpling. Let's give it a try. The dumpling is from Urban Belly, by the way. It's one of my favorite Asian food places. Wow, that dumpling is delicious. Give the wine a little taste. Oh, wow. You know what? That's actually delicious. The kind of barbecue, Korean barbecue flavor from the dumpling, from the beef dumpling inside, really pairs well with the sweetness of this wine. I don't know how to describe it. It's almost like it's like a sweet, super sweet barbecue taste. Like if you like sweet barbecue sauce, that's really what it tastes like. That's beautiful. I'm gonna give that a check. So the last taste is oily. So I don't have anything really great to use for oily. So what I have been doing each week is actually just using a little bit of Italian dressing. So I'm gonna dip my chopstick in the Italian dressing. It's right here on my plate. I have a plate full of things. You can't see it. There's some Italian dressing right here. It's on the edge of my chopstick now. See, I'm getting both the sweetness of the wine and the zesty oiliness of the Italian dressing, and kind of a residual oil on my lips almost. It does not work very well for me. I would have to say that that oil is a no-go for me. So yeah, let's talk about some suggested food pairings next, as we figured out kind of what works in terms of our tasting profile. So here are just some suggested food pairings. First, I'd say fruit-driven desserts, so a blueberry cobbler, apple pie came to my mind. Anything that has a sweet fruit base would work perfectly because of the fruit aromas and flavors of the sweet dessert wine. Complement it great. I'd say cheesecake. Ice wine and cheesecake are a match made from heaven. I'd also say soft cheeses like brie, feta, ricotta, gorgonzola cheese, and then also pungent cheeses. So blue cheese, stinky cheeses, kind of that umami kind of flavor works really well, and it complements the sweetness of the wine so well. Lastly, here are just some of my sources that I used to create this presentation, and thank you so much for listening. I appreciate it, and I can't wait to see the rest of your guys' presentations. Have a good rest of your day.